Morning, all. All right, so we're up to the 1994-1995 season. I've gone with attendance numbers for this one. So sometimes it's the captains, sometimes it's the coaches and their records, and sometimes I look at the attendance. And Quebec leads the East that season in what would be their final season as the Nordiques. It is a 48 game schedule because there was a 103-day lockout that shortened the season. So Gary Bettman takes over not long after. There's a lockout. I don't think it's related to Bettman. I think even if John Ziegler had stayed in power, I still think we would have had a lockout. But it's that perception, right? The optics. At any rate, Quebec wins a 48 game season in terms of the East. 30, 13, and 5 records, so 65 points. 185 goals scored, 134 goals against. They're drawing 14,397 fans per night in a building that seats 15,399. Marcel Aubu never lost money running the Quebec Nordiques, but it was trending in the direction of losing money. And he knew that it wasn't going to get better. They weren't getting the building that they wanted, so he made the move to Denver. The Philadelphia Flyers go 28, 16, and 4 for 60 points, 150 goals, 132 assists. They're drawing 17,160 in an arena that seats 17,380. What's interesting is this means that both sides of the Lindros trade are tops in the East. Pittsburgh Penguins finished 29, 16, and 3, 61 points, so one more point than Philly, but they didn't win their division. 181 goals scored, 158 goals against. Because remember, Pittsburgh was in a different division than Philadelphia, and what was one of the more bonkers decisions I'd seen. Pittsburgh drawing 16,108 fans in a building designed for 17,000, or that seats 17,181. The Boston Bruins go 27, 18, and 3 for 57 points. 150 goals scored, 127 goals against. They're drawing 14,300 fans into the Garden, which seats 14,448. The New Jersey Devils 22, 18, and 8. I believe that's the last season at the Garden before they move into Fleet Center. 20, which of course had different TD Garden now. Yeah, 22, 18, and 8 record for New Jersey, 52 points, 136 goals scored, 121 goals against. They're drawing 16,379 fans into a building that seats 19,040. The Washington Capitals go 22, 18, and 8 as well. They lose the tiebreaker against New Jersey. So they also have 52 points. They also score 136 goals. They allow 120. So they allow one less goal against than New Jersey. 14,158 fans per game in an arena that seats 18,130. The Buffalo Sabres go 22, 19, and 7, so they finish with 51 points. 130 goals scored, 119 goals against. They're drawing 15,052 fans into an arena that seats 16,325. The New York Rangers, after a Stanley Cup win in 1994, 94-95 is a rough year for them. They were in and out of the playoffs a bit. 22, 23, and 3 is a record, 47 points. They keep Florida out by 1 point. They score 139 goals. They allow 134. They're drawing 18,200 fans per game, which is the exact capacity of MSG at that time. Florida, 20, 22, and 6 record, 46 points, 115 goals scored, 127 goals against. They're drawing 14,192 fans into an arena that seats 14,703. The Hartford Whalers, 19, 24, and 5, 43 points for them, 127 goals scored, 141 goals against. And there's some talk about them not making a lot of money. They're drawing 11,835 fans per game in an arena that seats 15,635. The Montreal Canadiens go 18, 23, and 7 for 43 points. Rare miss of the playoffs by the Montreal Canadiens. 125 goals scored, 148 goals against. They're drawing 16,964 fans in an arena that seats 17,959. The Tampa Bay Lightning go 17, 28, and 3. They score 120 goals that year. They allow 147, so they have 37 points, 10 points out of the playoffs. 19,932 fans in the Thunderdome, which can seat 26,000. But again, this is just a go-between until their permanent home is available. The New York Islanders, 15, 28, and 5 record, 35 points, 128 goals scored, 158 goals against. They're getting 12,573 fans per game. The arena seats 16,297. The Ottawa Senators, another rough season, 9, 34, and 5 record, 23 points, 117 goals scored, 174 goals against, and they're only drawing 9,879 fans per game. The arena seats 10,525. So it's been a rough start for the Ottawa Senators. Out west, the Detroit Red Wings are first, and easily first. 33-11-4 record, 180 goals scored, 117 goals against, so a 70-point season for them. 19,779 fans per game. The arena seats 19,875, so right near a sellout every night. The Calgary Flames finished 24-17-7, 55 points, 163 goals scored, 135 goals against. They're getting 19,035 fans. The arena seats 20,240. So there's some empty seats in Calgary, but it's a big arena. St. Louis Blues finished 28-15-5, so 61 points for them, 178 goals scored, 135 goals against. Their seating is above capacity, 19,469 fans per game. The arena seats 19,260. So this is a far cry from the 82-83 season where they're not drawing and they're losing money. Chicago Blackhawks finished 24-19-5, so they have 53 points. 156 goals scored, 115 goals against. They're getting 20,832 fans per game. The arena seats 20,500. So when Chicago's doing well, they draw quite well and easily. The Toronto Maple Leafs, 21-19-8 record, 50 points, 135 goals scored, 146 goals against. They're above capacity as well, 15,744 per game. The arena seats 15,646. Vancouver, 18-18-12, 48 points, 153 goals scored, 148 goals against. So while the Rangers struggle to match what they've done the year before, so does Vancouver. They go from one game above 500 to 500, and I don't know, there's just something missing that year. They were getting 13,920 fans per game. The arena seats 16,150. So for a comparison, Quebec City was drawing better than Vancouver at that point. So when there were rumors late in the 90s about maybe Vancouver could leave too, this is part of what was looked at was the attendance. San Jose, 19-25-4 record, 42 points, 129 goals scored, 161 goals against. They're in the playoffs again. They're drawing exactly their capacity, 17,190 fans per game. The Dallas Stars, they slip, but they stay in the playoffs. 17-23-8 record, also 42 points, 136 goals scored, 135 goals against. They're drawing 16,729 fans per game. The arena seats 16,914. The LA Kings missed the playoffs by 1 point, record of 16-23-9, 142 goals scored, 174 goals against. They're drawing 15,397 fans per game. The building seats 16,005. The Winnipeg Jets, 16-25-7 record, 39 points, 157 goals scored, 177 goals against. And there's some rumblings about the Jets as the Nordiques are being announced to be on their way out. But Winnipeg's 13,012 fans per game. The arena seats 15,565. The Edmonton Oilers having some struggles. 17-27-4 record for 38 points, 136 goals scored, 183 goals against. They're drawing 13,123 fans in an arena that seats 17,100. The Anaheim Ducks finished last, but they have 37 points. Record of 16-27-5, 125 goals scored, 164 goals against. So they're doing pretty well, and they're selling out. They're drawing 17,174 fans per game, and that's the capacity of the arena. So there you go. Anaheim and Florida both selling tickets really well. So Mario Lemieux misses the season due to nagging back issues, and also he had Hodgkin's lymphoma the year before, so you might need some rest after that. Either way, he takes the time off. The Wings get to the final for the first time in 29 years, and New Jersey isn't very nice to them. Trapped them right out in a sweep. We'll talk about it. June 28th of 1994, the Toronto Maple Leafs trade Wendell Clark, Sylvain Lefebvre, Landon Wilson, and a 1994 first-round draft pick to the Quebec Nordiques for Matt Sundin, Garth Butcher, Todd Warner, and a 1994 first. So just to flip a first-round draft picks. And it's a signal that there's a change coming to Toronto, one that a lot of people didn't like at the time. But Sundin ends up being the best player in the trade. So pretty good deal for Toronto. And eventually Wendell Clark returns. July 4th of 1994, the Flames trade Al MacInnis to the St. Louis Blues for Phil Housley. So it's a 1-for-1. And it's a sign of the times. Calgary's trying to stay competitive, but players want out. So what's going on now feels very similar to what was going on then. Calgary was a team that, again, they won the Stanley Cup in '89. It felt like they would have to win at least one more, and they just didn't. February 9th of 1995, a huge trade. The Habs are trying to get themselves above the playoff line, and instead, this trade works against them. They trade John LeClair, Gilbert Dion, and Eric Desjardins to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Mark Recchi and a 1995 third-round pick. No offense to Mark Recchi, he's a Hall of Famer, but man, do the Flyers win that trade. March 25th of 1995, Red Wings coach Scotty Bowman is the first to reach 900 wins as a coach in his career. June 17th of 1995, the Devils, they set a playoff record with their 9th road win in a single playoff year. Jagr also becomes the first European-born player to lead the NHL in scoring, so kudos to him for that. And Scotty Bowman becomes the first coach to appear in the finals with 4 different teams, having previously done it with St. Louis, Montreal, and of course, Pittsburgh. The Nordiques, as I said, their last season before the move, Marcel Aubut becomes kind of public enemy number 1 in Quebec. The refs also that year go back to just numbers on the backs of their jerseys. They take the names off the backs of the jerseys. I think it was meant to curb public sentiment against certain refs. At least that's the way I think it was meant to work. It doesn't work. As we know, I can mention names of referees now. People still know who those referees are. And you'll still hear, that guy, we can't win when he refs. And that guy's terrible. So I'm not sure that taking the names off the backs of the referees' jerseys had any, it was a negligible difference in how fans watch the game. So the Art Ross Trophy is won by Jaromir Jagr, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Masterdons won by Pat LaFontaine of the Buffalo Sabres. The Calder goes to Peter Forsberg of the Quebec Nordiques. So yeah, Colorado's getting a stacked team. The Conn Smythe goes to Claude Lemieux of the New Jersey Devils. The Selke goes to Ron Francis of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Hart goes to Eric Lindros of the Philadelphia Flyers. When Lindros was at his peak, he was the best player in the league. It was not for that long because, well, I mean, Scott Stevens, that hit and everything. Jack Adams goes to Mark Crawford of the Quebec Nordiques. The Norris goes to Paul Coffey of Detroit. And once Paul Coffey was playing for Scotty Bowman, he became a much better defenseman. This version of Paul Coffey, I thought, was superior to the one in Edmonton. So even though he wasn't scoring points at the same rate, I thought he was a better all-around defenseman. And it was remarkable that he won that Norris when he did. The King Clancy goes to Joe Nieuwendyk of the Calgary Flames. The Lady Byng goes to Ron Francis of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Lester Pearson also goes to Eric Lindros of the Philadelphia Flyers. So when a guy gets the Hart and the Pearson, it means the media likes him, and so do the players. The Vezina goes to Dominic Hasek of the Buffalo Sabres. The Jennings goes to Ed Belfour of the Chicago Blackhawks. Your league all-stars that year: Eric Lindros is the first-team All-Star at center. Alexei Zhamnov of Winnipeg is second team. On the left side, John LeClair, with the season split between Montreal and Philly, is the first-team All-Star. Keith Tkachuk of Winnipeg, second team. On the right side, Jaromir Jagr of Pittsburgh's first team. And Theoren Fleury from Calgary is your second-team All-Star. On the blue line, Paul Coffey of Detroit and Chris Chelios of Chicago are your first-team All-Stars. Ray Bourque of Boston and Larry Murphy of Pittsburgh are your second-team All-Stars. In net, Dominic Hasek of Buffalo's first team, Eddie Belfour of the Chicago Blackhawks' second team All-Star. So Jagr, as previously mentioned, leads the way. 48 games, 32 goals, 38 assists, 70 points. Eric Lindros technically finishes second, even though they're tied in points. 46 games, 29 goals, 41 assists, 70 points. Goals are the tiebreakers, so the Art Ross Trophy goes to Jagr that year. Zhamnov in Winnipeg, 48 games, 30 goals, 35 assists, 65 points. Absolutely fantastic season for Zhamnov. Sakic, 47 games, 19 goals, 43 assists, 62 points. Ron Francis, 44 games, 11 goals, 98 assists, 59 points. Theoren Fleury in Calgary, 47 games, 29 goals, 29 assists, 58 points. Paul Coffey in Detroit, 45 games, 14 goals, 44 assists, also had 58 points. Michael Renberg in Philadelphia, as the Legion of Doom line is truly formed here. 47 games, 26 goals, 31 assists, 57 points. John LeClair in Montreal, and of course then in Philly, 46 games, 26 goals, 28 assists, 54 points. Mark Messier of the Rangers, 46 games, 14 goals, 39 assists, 63 points to round out your top 10 scorers. Ken Reggett led the league in wins that year, 25-9-2 record with Philly, 903 save percentage. Ed Belfour in Chicago, 22-15-3, 906 save percentage, 5 shutouts. Reggett didn't have a shutout that year. Trevor Kidd in Calgary, 22-14-6 record, 909 save percentage, 3 shutouts. Pretty good year for Trevor Kidd. Curtis Joseph in St. Louis, 20-10-1 record, 902 save percentage, 1 shutout. And Dominic Hasek with Buffalo went 19, 14, and 7. 930 save percentage, 5 shutouts. Just the difference in save percentage between him and everybody else was ridiculous at that stage. So we get to the playoffs. Again, conference quarterfinals are the start of it here. Chicago beats Toronto 4-3, so Toronto doesn't get back to the conference final. Vancouver beats St. Louis 4-3. St. Louis has never beaten Vancouver in the playoffs. No idea why that is. So one of those oddities. San Jose beats Calgary 4-3. So Calgary, again, second seed going to the playoffs. And again, they're out. That's 2 years in a row. They're the second seed. And they're out in the first round against an underdog. Detroit beats Dallas 4-1. New Jersey beats Boston 4-1. Pittsburgh beats Washington 4-3. So we're back to Pittsburgh beating Washington. Philadelphia beats Buffalo 4-1. And New York beats Quebec 4-2. And what was interesting with that series was Quebec looked like they were in control, and then nope. And they were out in the first round. So it was an unceremonious ending for a Quebec Nordiques team that had a really strong season. And it would have been nice to see Quebec at least get to maybe a conference final in that last year. But no, the Rangers take them out in the first round. The conference semifinals, Chicago beats Vancouver in 4 straight. As I remember, I think 3 of those went to overtime. Detroit beats San Jose. That's also 4 straight, so not much tension in the West. New Jersey beats Pittsburgh 4-1, and Philadelphia sweeps the New York Rangers, so there's not much to worry about there either in terms of time. It's very, very quick. And the Rangers, their hope for a repeat ends in the second round. So we get to the conference final. Detroit and Chicago, a lot of overtime in this series. Detroit wins the first game in overtime 2-1. They win the second game 3-2. They then go to Chicago and win 4-3 in double overtime. Chicago avoids the sweep for the 5-2 win, and then Detroit goes home and wins again in double overtime 2-1 this time around. They win the series 4-1. Then we get into New Jersey and Philadelphia in this one. New Jersey wins both games in Philly by scores of 4-1 and 5-2. Then Philadelphia beats New Jersey 3-2 in overtime. They also win in New Jersey 4-2. Then New Jersey goes into Philadelphia and wins 3-2, and then they go home and win 4-2 to win in 6 games. The question going into the final was, so New Jersey had this trap, and now they're not the only team playing the trap. Florida played the trap. Anaheim played the trap. Montreal wanted to play the trap, really didn't have the personnel for it. There was a version of it with Chicago as well. Washington, Buffalo, their goals against were down, although with Buffalo, a lot of that's Hasek. But the Devils were the most successful playing this neutral zone trap, something Jacques Lemaire brought with him, and it worked. And in the Stanley Cup final, they made it look relatively easy. The idea was that fans expected and media expected Detroit's offense and the swarming offense they had would just be able to overwhelm this neutral zone trap, and it didn't. The New Jersey Devils made it, again, look pretty easy. There weren't very many shots for Detroit in that final. And New Jersey wins in Detroit 2-1 in the first game. And that was where, watching that game, I went, all right, so Detroit's not winning this year. New Jersey wins 4-2 in the next one. And then they go home and they win both games at home by scores of 5-2, I should say, to sweep the series. And that meant that for fans who were mocking Detroit, because Detroit at this point had been up at the top for like half a decade or near the top, and they hadn't been able to get over the hump. So when they got swept in the Stanley Cup final, the mockery began yet again. And the questions of whether or not Yzerman could get a team over the hump was still there too. Which, as silly as it sounds now, that's out there. So in that Stanley Cup final, Fedorov had 3 goals and 2 assists. Doug Brown had 3 assists for Detroit. Fedosov had 3 assists. Of course, those are both former New Jersey Devils. Dino Ciccarelli had a goal and an assist, and Paul Coffey had a goal and an assist. Mike Vernon had an .854 save percentage. Osgood had a .909 save percentage in that final. On the other side, Neil Broughton with New Jersey, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. One thing I was very happy about was Neil Broughton getting a cup ring. I wished it had been in Dallas, but I was very happy for him to get one in New Jersey. Paul McLean, John McLean. Paul McLean, different player. John McLean, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. Stefan Richer, 2 goals, 2 assists. And Niedermeyer, a goal and 3 assists in the final. Bill Guerin had 4 assists in that final as well. Marty Brodeur had a .907 save percentage. And of course, Claude Lemieux gets the Conn Smythe because very timely goals at the exact right moment when necessary. And New Jersey wins themselves their first of what would be 3 Stanley Cups, at least so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the 94-95 season. We're getting close to getting up to 30 teams. We're currently, of course, at 26. So we're almost up to the NHL we recognize, and tomorrow you'll see an Avs magnet. The day after that, you'll see a Coyotes magnet, which I'm sorry to Arizona fans because that era has come to an end, but there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.